Hi, my name is Courtney Davis, and I am at Jacksonville State University where I'm pursuing my degree in instructional leadership. And today I'm going to present my findings on my action research proposal presentation for Dr. Young's IL 510 class. And what I'm going to be talking about is increasing the science ACT scores of African American males at Benjamin Russell High School. So I hope you enjoy it and learn a lot from this. And these are all my participants. They came out to really support me, and I appreciate them. So we're going to go ahead and go. All right, so first of all, the problem statement that I had to come up with in this class is based on the ACT scores, which have been a problem. Really, it's saying that the ACT scores of African American males, particularly in science, which we all teach, accounted for today. Overall, they have been declining over the past few years at Benjamin Russell High School. And this is talking about not just in the achievement gap, but also like just the overall science scores for African American males compared to their counterparts, being African American females, Caucasian males, and females. In addition to this, the achievement gap seen also between African American males and their counterparts at Benjamin Russell High School has been broadening. And we want to get that down, and we want to lessen it and increase it by these instructional strategies and preventions that I found within this study. Focus of many educational institutions in today's society and in today's schools is getting students college and career ready, and that's what I focus my action proposal on. So how can we increase the ACT scores of African American male students and help close the achievement gap seen at Benjamin Russell between African American males and their counterparts? And the actions to promote the success of the action research proposal that I came up with is increasing the rigor of classes in varying contents and subject matter, in which we're already doing by the leadership of Dr. Wilson. With our strategic instructional teaching strategies. Also exposing students to real world situations and scenarios through project-based learning, which we're also doing with evidence-based learning as well, where we put those students into a real world scenario and they have to find their way through the problem, with us acting as facilitators instead of just teaching all the time, letting them do it, and letting them come together and really learn better, where it's not teacher-led but student-led. And lastly, is strategic instruction through effective instructional strategies for gain hands-on experiences, focusing on enhancement of student 21st century skills, and that's communication, collaboration, creativity, and so on and so forth. Next, what I want to talk about you all with, along with this problem statement, I came up with the idea that how am I going to measure success, or how am I going to measure proficiency or achievement in these students. And I came up with levels of proficiency that you see on the ACT Aspire test for 10th graders. So I broke it down with the help of Dr. Price and Dr. Wilson into four levels of proficiency, being level 1, students scoring anywhere between a 16 and below. So if they score a 16 and below, this is the cumulative grade on the ACT. That means that it's the lowest, and they do not meet the academic content standards for, especially since we're talking about science. If they scored in level 2 proficiency, students scored between a 17 and a 22 overall, and group them to level 2, meaning that they partially met academic content standards. And level 3, so on and so forth, is saying that if they scored between the 23 and 28, it signified that they met, or they're at the par for meeting the academic content standards within that core, whether it be reading, math, English, or science in this case. And level 4, which few students did make it, it was those students that scored a 29 and above, meaning that they exceeded the academic content standards. So those are the level 4 proficiencies that you will see on the data sheets that I gave you, and they go by score from 16 and below, 17 to 22, and 23 to 28, and 29 and above. And what we're trying to do through this research and incorporating it with the class of 2017 and so on and forth, 18 and beyond, is going to be to where we're moving the students, the African American males especially, from level 1 and dimensioning that or lessening that tremendously by way of the teaching that we do strategically here, and putting them into level 2s and level 3s, just like we're increasing our DOK on our tests and our assessments. And DOK meaning depth of knowledge. All right, some of the data, if you look at it, you will see that 2014 15 school year. So I took the classes of 2015, 16, and 17, which just graduated in May. And I wanted to compare them. To make anything measurable, you have to compare classes. So I took 3 of them and I grouped them into black males, black females, white males, and white females. And I wanted to make this comparison because that's the greatest achievement gap that we have at Benjamin Russell. And meaning, really, when you talk about black males, they are scoring way lower across the board from level 2, level 3, and level 4 proficiencies, where they're underrepresented. Just like in my findings, I found that they're underrepresented in those higher AP level classes, and they're more or overrepresented in remedial classes and also classes that are elective or lower level. And what you'll see in the 2014-15 class that did not have the strategic instruction that we implemented within the 2015-16 and 17 year is that you'll see black males, it was out of like 44 black males, you'll see that 29 of them scored in level 1 proficiency, meaning that they scored a 16 and below. And the black females, they scored 25 of them, and its percentages go with that as well. You'll see on your data, 21 and 10. So you see less white females and white males scoring in level 1, and you see their scores higher in level 2s and 3s. And you even have some for white males and white females. You have 4 students that scored a 29 and above in that year, the 2015 year. And as you see, what I wanted to show you is that black males, their number is going down, and their number is going up in levels 2 and 3 proficiencies, meaning that they're scoring a 17 to 22 or 23 to 28. And right here, you'll see in the last year, you had 15 students. I know it's a different number each year of the black males and black females that you have, or white males and white females, but you still see there's a gradual increase of black males scoring lesser in the level 1 and level 2, and more in the level 3, level 2 and level 3. And that's what we want to do through this research. Keep on implementing the strategic instructional strategies that we have already in place by way of class, and all the things that we do, from formative assessments and summative assessments, as well as incorporating a lot of PBLs and EBLs where these kids are hands-on and they're more proactive than just sitting and listening to a lecture. Right here, the hypothesis statement and definitions. This is what I had to come up with. What is my focus for this study? The class of 2017, which just graduated, African American males at Benjamin Russell High School that receive instruction by way of strategic teaching instructional strategies. Mastery Prep, which we incorporated as well, and New Zeller, which is a reading for literacy, like instructional tool that we use, will show greater achievement on their science portion of the ACT compared to African American males within the class of 2015 and 2016 who did not receive this strategic instruction. And that's what we saw on the data you just saw. Strategic teaching instructional strategies is just a 6-step method that we use at Benjamin Russell High School, and it goes from outcomes that we have on the board. We have an OBDA, and outcomes, the O stands for outcomes, before, during, and after. All of these are reading instructional strategies, all right, that we implement, and we want to get those kids to be more prone to understanding informational text, and that is where New Zealand comes in as well. It keeps up with their reading comprehension. Also assessments, and these are daily for the strategic teaching instructional strategies, and this is where also Mastery Prep and ACT Blitz and everything that we incorporated within this year comes into play as well. Using Mastery Prep, we can use this as bell ringers, we can use it as quizzes, and what they're supposed to do is to be incorporated within the daily curriculum to bring lower scoring students on the ACT up to college ready standards, because that's one of the college ready standards, like instruction tools that we use, the ACT, to base and see if they are ready for college or not. And New Zealand is just going to be a database of different current events and stories that you can find, and they are science related. They're up to par with the new generation science curriculum that we have that's going to be coming set in place soon. And what we do, we will use these for reading comprehension and critical and analytical thinking skills. And what are we trying to do? We're trying to increase their depth of knowledge. And one way we can do this is making their reading comprehension come up to par, because they're lagging even from earlier elementary grades with that. And if we can help them, that's the 3 ways we're going to do it at Benjamin Wilson. All right, the literature review. Some of the findings that I found, and I'm not going to be for you too much longer. One thing that I found is that the dynamics that affect student learning, not just African American males, but in this case particularly African American males, are going to be factors related to self-esteem concerns, their own personal, intrapersonal things that goes on that we can't control at home, but we can control and try to fix them at here. And so this is the front we're standing on, trying to help them at this level or in school. So nutritional issues. Also, if a student has 8 in the morning, they're going to be more apt to learning. So we have a new breakfast thing that has been incorporated as well to make sure that every student eats. Teacher expectations and perceptions, teacher quality. That's why all teachers have to be highly certified now. Lack of culturally responsive instruction. In some cases, we do have predominantly white teachers, and sometimes they may not understand where those kids come from. So if there's more culturally responsive instruction put into place, then we can see what they're dealing with out of school, and then you always try to get to the root of the problem. What is getting them from not learning? Because sometimes it's just not that they can't learn, but it's things on the outside, and also limited school resources. I think we're in a great school where we don't have those problems, but we still have some resources that are not reaching those kids to make them come up in their achievement gap. Another thing was poor achievement is learned and it can be unlearned, and it can and must be unlearned. Another thing that was found in my study was that it was 4 keys that Ford found, an author, and they were contributing to poor student achievement, especially found in African American males. Those were the things that we don't teach or focus on. We focus on instructional methods, but we forget about societal, institutional, ethnic, and household things that they go through, and also personal things. And if you can reach a child right where they are and they can see where you learn, if they know you really care, they're going to want to learn even more. So we have to take that in consideration. Another thing, additionally in school aspects, the influence was, the main key influence was educators of quality. So we got to be knowing our content first of all. We got to know what we're talking about to even reach them. Firmness of curriculum. Without a strong head like we do have, the body or the teachers are not going to have any direction. Pupil engagement in instructional tasks. That's why we always have a lot of students doing stuff at all times. Even in science, we have groups to where we set up managers, we set up note takers, we set up communicators. All of them are going to be active in the class, because if a student is engaged, they're going to want to learn even more. And also the school climate, where we have high expectancies for all students. If you have that, and they see that you are teaching to all students and not just some students, they're going to want to learn even more from you. And the last thing from the literature review that I want to touch is going to be some of the educational atmosphere that we as teachers and administrators create for these students. Some of the things that we can help move these students are define customary literacy teaching, how we actually teach, not just through a lecture. Do we let them get up and do anything? We have to come up with new instructional methods to really get across to them. Also, inciting collaborative learning. That's where we do a lot of group learning, to where it's going to be them finding out the solutions instead of us telling them. Because when they are able to use their minds and critically think, they're going to find out even more than we could ever teach them. And also, pupils' awareness of social uprightness. If they have self-confidence in themselves, they're going to want to do better without you even having to motivate them. Another thing that I wanted to talk about was Kenyatta noted that consequently, pupils of color, especially African American men, they're diminished in advanced classes. So if we can change that, and they're seen more, like I said, in remedial and special needs classrooms, and even receive harsher and differential treatment in relation to discipline infractions. And there's a lot of factors that were included within that as well. And sometimes we have seen it. I know I have seen it in cases. The action plan that is going to work for all of this coming into place is some of the things I'm going to just go ahead and name. Professional development. At the beginning of the year, I'm going to host just a turnaround teaching on this to get all of the teachers on board, not just the science department. And I want them to be able to sit down and come up with ideas as to what they can do as a department to help reverse this problem, close the achievement gap seen between African American males and their counterparts, and also just help them increase and that is by way of making sure that we're incorporating New Zealand, our different reading instructional strategies with our OBDA. Also, Mastery Prep, all classes. If you can't get it in at every day, you can get it in at least once, twice a week. Progress monitoring. I'm planning on doing that like quarterly, like every 3 months. You'll see it in October and December and January when we get back to see where we are, and in March again, and at the end of the year. And you'll see that, and I'll hand that to you another day. Implementation of, so first of all, you have to provide professional development for teachers. If they're going to get on board, they have to know what they're getting into to want to get on board. Implementation of Brother. It's a mentor / tutor group that I'm coming up with as well. And one is an incentive also. It's open to all males of the school, but particularly focused on African American males. And Brother, the acronym stands for Brothers Reaching Out to Help Another, because sometimes a lot of Black African American males come from homes where they are in single parent homes, and if they can look at somebody that in my shoes with dreads and all and see that, you know, I've gotten here, you can do it too. Or they just need to have a mentor or a father figure or a big brother type of program. And in this, we're going to give them affirmations daily. We're going to have meetings at least once or twice a week. And I'm also going to have a tutor group to where some of my stronger 11th and 12th graders that are better in science, they can mentor those that do not have that wit or that need a little extra push. So we're going to do a lot of things in there to help the teachers as well. Anything they need tutoring in, if I can help, are those students that are stronger students in math and science and reading and language. They're going to be there to help them. Also, incorporation of Mastery Prep quizzes and bell ringers, and also our ACT Blitz again. We're going to do that to keep structured instructional program going on at Benjamin Russell. The progress monitoring, and that's going to be after I go ahead and do the turnaround teaching of this study. I'm going to make sure that I do staff bi-weekly quarterly meetings with the whole department, the whole staff of Benjamin Russell. New Zealand literacy student data reports, we're going to have those every 3 months. We can update them and see how a student has started off at a reading level in August and moved to a reading level in November. So it's going to see some progress on that because it keeps up with everything. It even moves them from a reading 6th grade level to a 7th and 8th and so on. And also, we're going to just evaluate student growth through progress reports, report cards, and science benchmarks. And we're going to continuously be in contact with students' parents to show that they have moved and progressed. Also, classroom walkthroughs and peer observations that we incorporated this year are going to help us do that as well. So that's that timeline, and the references are so on and so forth that I use for my action research study. Now I want to go ahead and have a little short discussion with you all and see where you think we are, and you know, especially the Benjamin Russell teachers, what can we do to make sure that this action research goes on and keeps on going stronger, and that African American males are moved higher in their not just academic achievement, but also what we're focused on, that's ACT scores.
I'll tell you that having come from the poverty training in San Antonio from this past summer, it completely mirrors what you're saying, because a lot of times the number one key for getting students involved is that relationship.
Right.
And so if you don't understand your student and you're coming from a different background, it is hard to kind of make that connection. So the number one thing that teachers need to understand is that teaching is not just about the content, it's about the relationships with those students on their level and their culture and their background. So if you don't have that understanding, you have a disconnect, yes, between that. And this mirrors it too, because what we find in our studies is that a lot of African American males are coming from and representing those socioeconomic status levels that are lower. And so a lot of the strategies that you use for this, encouraging them in terms of like you're saying, the science ACT, it can be across the board. You know, across the board in all levels of academics. And And, you know, we all know that an engaged child is a behaved child. And if they're actively participating in what they're learning, you're not going to have that. And I do think that a lot of the misrepresentation that you point out on the data for black males is because of the fact that, number one, there's not a relationship with the overrepresentation of the white teacher, you know, with the black student, not understanding that cultural difference and incorporating that and appreciating that, number one, to establish a relationship, and number two, engaging them on a level that they want to participate in.
You gotta get where they are.
That's right. You gotta meet them. Like you said earlier, we can't control what goes on at home, but we can certainly control what goes on here. And unless you establish that relationship based on their cultural and ethnic differences and incorporate that, not just realize it, but incorporate that, those kids are going to be more likely to become engaged and thus less of a dismorale and more able to perform at their academic achievement level. And I agree with that.
One of the things I'm going to include as well is some for my black, African American males, is they're going to do, like every 9 weeks, they're going to read one book, especially in my mentor group, that reflects something that they want to be, or whether it's Malcolm X or Martin Luther King, something, an autobiography of that person, and give a detailed report before their peers that are going to join the group.
That's a great idea. Well, think about even in science, since we're science, think about Dr. Ben Carson. You know what I'm saying? That's applicable strictly to our course, so I think that's a great idea.
Right, especially nurses.
Yeah.
Anybody else got anything?
I understand where you were going with it, but I think there's going to be some teachers that you might need to explain a little more on your first slide. That first statement, how you plan to achieve this, you said you were going to increase rigor in other content areas and subject matter to increase the science portion. I know how you plan on doing this, but I think you need to, like, how are you going to tell other teachers how that's going to help the science portion out?
My plan is to just sit down with every department at that professional turnaround teaching and just let them hash out ideas, just like when we ever come together and put something on a Google form, like when we were working on the power standards for our group. They're just going to come up with implementations that they think their department can do to help on this study. Because really, we're trying to increase around the board, because the ACT reference that I use and United Negro College Fund, they came together and did a collaboration on why black males, or just African American students, are failing at the ACT. And one thing that they found is, even if they are in AP classes, they're still going to do low. Sometimes it's just about student test-taking abilities. You know, it's not about whether they know the material or not. Like we said, it's not if they know the content or not, because we're teaching the content. Might not get to all of it, but it's about, are they able to analyze or think more critically? And I do agree with you. How am I going to get everybody on board? Because it's going to be different, and everybody's not going to get on board. Just like, you know, with the teachings that we do now, it's taking step by step to get everybody on the same mindset. So that's going to be a work in progress. But this is just an action plan. It's just a proposal, and I hope that from here we can maybe build it stronger and make the staff more unified, and not just, you know, our department, because I believe our science department is strong, but if we can make everybody on the same page to move these African American males, as well as other minorities or people, even some of my white females and males, they're making 16s and below. So if we can move them, and I know my focus is on African American males, but I'm teaching to all children and not teaching to just one crowd, because hey, my white students, just as well as my black and my Mexican and everything, they can see that. That's why we add like Dia de los Muertos and everything, you know, not just for the content area to include it, but also to let them know, hey, we want to add your culture in here as well. And not just, you know, I know we were talking about we're going to add something for African American culture as well next year with our themes that we do for science. So I understand where you're coming from. It's going to be a hard work in progress, because anything that requires change is going to take effort. So, and it's going to take time too.
I think though, you presenting this data, this data,
it's going to
it proves that, you know what I'm saying? So it's a buy-in process.
Yeah, it really is. You know, just looking at the numbers, you know, a lot of people are data people, and looking at the numbers, I mean, you can see where there is that achievement gap with the African American males. And just like she said, some people are going to buy into it, but you're going to have to pull some people into it. And I think with the turnaround trainings, and they see you all working hard and
Get on board.
I think they're gonna pull towards it.
Mhm.
I don't even work over here, and I'm just like, hey, I need to come over
Yeah.
here and get in on this.
It's like we are a data-driven school, and the culture of today's schools is going to be data-driven. And one of the things that they're saying for the future is going to be a flipped classroom. But first, we need to deal with the in-school stuff. Like I said, we can't deal with the stuff outside of school, really. We can get in the community, but we can't go home with them, or they can't go home with us. So that's one way that through all the things we are doing right now, and through the new implementation of the brother group, as long and just the incorporation and working together as a faculty and staff and department, I think we can achieve this action proposal. Y'all, meeting adjourned? All right.
Good stuff.